This is the Haas fight of the week. It felt apt this week. There's a lot of potential for Haas fights. I guess Eagles O-line versus Rams D-line was a good one, but Broncos at Chargers. Got that Broncos O-line versus that stout Chargers defense. Khalil Mack is out, but still, we got some Haas fight potential of this game because I think both teams are going to be really, really tested against each other, especially on this side of the ball. We'll start with when the Broncos have the ball. Chargers defense, Sean Payton, Jesse Minter, fun little scheme battle between these two. Also, you got kind of like we just keep talking about, kind of like a gut check, I think, for both units. The Broncos offense kind of been, especially passing game, just can't get over the hump, can't really have that nice performance maybe. And on the other side, you got a Chargers defense that's looked great, I think, going against the Chiefs. And then the Raiders actually picked up 2 division wins, which is huge. But now going against the Broncos. So kind of without Khalil Mack, what you checking out on this side of the ball? What you watching? How do you think the Broncos can maybe manufacture some points against a very, very well scouted and well coached defense?
I guess I've kind of, I don't really know like kind of where I'm ending up on this game because I went back to last year and they had an interesting like 2-game battle last year where like at the start of the season, the Chargers defense, it kind of started like they are now, where they are just absolutely pummeling people, and they got the early season rookie Bo Nix, and they kind of stifled that offense again. But in the back half of the season, when the Bengals and the Ravens and those teams showed up on the Chargers schedule, like their defensive numbers plummeted. And then even in the second Broncos game, the Broncos were able to score 27 points, but Justin Herbert, did the thing he's been doing for the past like 20 games and put his team on his back and dragged him over the finish line to win. So I guess I get a little nervous sometimes because I wonder if I still am kind of like trying to decide for myself if the Chargers like actually have the talent yet to like make that leap to like we are battling. We're not just beating up on the bad offense, the inconsistent offense. We're battling against like offenses that can really score and beat up defenses. It's gonna be tough without Khalil Mack. But I do think like some of these guys have taken a step. Like even Dayan Henley, he looks more improved than last year.
Amazing.
And he was awesome last year. Alohi Gilman's had a nice start to the season. So I do think that their guys are improved, but I still kind of couldn't figure out like for myself, like what's the actual thing that's going to kind of tip things in favor of either team, because I think they match up well in a way that's like, that should be fun and competitive. The Chargers defense has gotten off to a fast start than the Broncos offense. I mean, the Broncos passing game has looked a little iffy. The 22nd EPA per drop back, success rate's kind of low. But still, it's hard not to like, I still like the offensive line. Obviously, still trust Sean Payton as a play caller. So again, kind of like the last game with the Eagles and the Rams, I think this is a good litmus test for both teams on where they are. Because I think like up front, this is going to be probably the tough. This is not probably. I think this is going to be the toughest battle the Chargers have had so far, because that Broncos line, like they can get moving when things are clicking for them.
No, there's definitely some fist fights going on in the interior. But I just think this is just such a cool kind of schematic battle where it's like neither unit's like perfect. They have their weaknesses, right? But you have Sean Payton designing plays, and then you got Jesse Minter designing plays. But no, with Sean Payton, I think it really comes down to shot plays. Like, because I don't think this offense is very flowy right now when they have to drop back. And I think the run game, they'll get theirs, but it's not going to be overwhelming. Like where, it's more of like that 40% success rate kind of finish. J.K. Dobbins has a couple nice runs, but it's not like, oh my God, they just carry the whole game. Bo Nix only had to pass 12 times, where I think that's more of an even matchup, even if the Broncos O-line is pretty dang good. I just think that it comes down to these designer plays. Like, all right, they cross midfield. Are they going to launch one? Because so far, a couple of the interceptions Bo Nix has had, at least in week 1 against the Titans, they came on the dash pass, which is that kind of extended sprint out that they do. And it's to kind of make half field reads for him. And it's going to be nice protected. Well, 2 of his interceptions came on that, which should be their safe play, which is interesting to me, because it's like our defense is getting on top of this. Like I thought the Colts had a lot of stuff where they were kind of finding some indicators and everything. I thought Lou Anarumo really had those guys going last week. But the one thing I do think Bo Nix has a chance here is scrambling, is using his legs. He's a good athlete. He's willing to scramble. Got a lot of match coverages and tight coverage. Well, all right, sometimes when quarterbacks see it tight, I'm going to just run, use my legs. But also, this has been the one weakness under Minter. It happens with these types of defenses. I think I brought it up last year, was that when you have so many match rules and eyes on what the routes are going to be, they're not looking at the quarterback. And so when you have that, there it is, just opportunities to run wild on them. Stroud even did it a little bit last year in the playoffs. But the Chargers defense, start of last year, they're second in yards per game to scrambles allowed, second worst, I should say. 29th in success rate allowed to scrambles, 27th in explosive runs to scrambles allowed, and 27th in total EPA allowed to scrambles. So it's definitely a thing, and that's just a thing that they're susceptible to. But now I think Bo Nix, if like he really wants to churn it, they have to drop back and pass. I think that's going to be a huge, huge thing for them to try and move the ball, because I think the rest is just going to be a stalemate.
Yeah, the Broncos are line. I don't know how often people have talked about them this season, but they've had a really good start up front. Like some of the numbers that you look at, like when you filter out like play action plays where it's just like straight dropbacks for the quarterback. This year, when Broncos don't use play action, just drop them back, first in the league in pressure rate, 18% pressure rate, no sacks on 50 dropbacks. Like that's like tough for an offensive line to do consistently, because there's no you're not tricking anybody back there. We know you're going to pass, you're dropping back, and they're still not letting anyone through. And the Chargers, they've been about middle of the pack rushing the passer in this situation. So and honestly, it's not even like Bo Nix is like just dinking and dunking, getting the ball. Well, he is dinking and dunking, but he's not holding onto the ball. He's right. Getting the ball at like about average time. He doesn't
really take sacks. He didn't take sacks in college either. He'll just throw a missile check down for a 1 yard gain. But I mean, much better than taking a sack.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is those sack numbers, like, they aren't inflated by him just dumping the ball off in 2 seconds every time. Like, he's, they're actually giving him time back there to throw the ball 3 yards in the air. It's kind of cool to see.
All right, now we're going to the other side of the ball. When the Chargers have the ball, this one, strength on strength. We got Herbert just chucking the ball. This is the lowest designed run rate Greg Roman has ever had when he's coordinated offense in the NFL. Like, this is the most he's ever passed, the most pass heavy he's ever been. I have a whole bunch of stats for this one, or not a whole bunch, but one that I think is really interesting. I would say last week, Daniel Jones and the Colts receivers were just hitting everything. It was unbelievable. Like, every guy had a catch. Michael Pittman had a close catch against Patrick Surtain. Tyler Warren had a one-on-one win against Patrick Surtain. Alec Pierce is dunking on Riley Moss. And actually, Alec Pierce is getting paid after this offseason because he's adding to his game. A.D. Mitchell had a tough catch, I think, against Patrick Surtain as well. Surtain looked off a little bit for some reason. Hufanga is playing really well. Jahdae Barron, who has been kind of up and down so far 2 games, that's fine. But this is a potential big test for him. But what are you focusing on when the Chargers have the football, Charles?
I always thought that last week was pretty alarming for the Chargers offense, because they kind of fell into the same thing last year where you're not really getting the most out of a lot of drives. They're still like the bottom. They're doing a little better this year in terms of like percent of drives without a first down, but they're still hovering around like 40%. Which is, you got Justin Herbert, your quarterback. You shouldn't be wasting this many drives, but for him, like, he's been awesome again. I don't know if they'll win enough games for him to be the MVP, but I don't know if there is a player. Maybe this is overstated, but it feels like I don't know if there's a player that's more essential to their offensive success right now than Justin Herbert. I mean, the Chargers, we know they want to run the ball. We know they're going to try to run the ball. 26 in EPA per rush. But they're second in success rate on offensive dropbacks, second in EPA per dropback. I mean, he's having an incredible season. Second in net yards per passing attempt. They're 5th and 3rd in long conversion. So he's doing the thing again where he's pulling them on their back, and they've gotten some better like contributions from guys like, especially like Quentin Johnston. He's looked like a totally different player this season. I mean, being able to catch the ball is kind of a difference changer or a game changer when you're a wide receiver, and he looks like at least like a startable player now. But I still think they just kind of smash their heads into the wall a little bit too much, and they don't quite get enough that they should, considering they have Justin Herbert as the quarterback. They're 25th in terms of red zone drives, resulting in a touchdown. Like you're Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. Don't you like you guys should be able to figure this out a little bit more, but it feels like they're a little bit too set in their ways trying to run the ball. And it's funny because like American Hampton, he looks good. Like I think he looks just as good as advertised, but it's still some of the same problems that we were talking about pre-draft. Like I don't know if they have the ecosystem to actually, fulfill him to be like a really productive player in year one. And they're just not efficient yet unless Justin Herbert is doing the Atlas thing and carrying the whole world on his back.
Which he has so far. No, it's very fair. It's I went into it with I talked about this game, the Monday night game with Matt on Tuesday. And I was saying all this good stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing all this cool stuff. And Herbert's chucking it. And I was like, Greg Roman just can't help it. Just rear his ugly head. Just the goal line sequence, we're just getting stuff. And I was like, you guys should spread it out to run. God. And then I looked, they only have one successful run out of 11 personnel so far this year. So that was one theory, but I was like, hey, try that one, I think. No, and then the 4th and 1 call. Yeah, it wasn't on Tuesday. I get into it in detail. I went back. We were already on to the next section. I went back to complain about something with Greg Roman. I will say, so going with the Broncos, and this will kind of leave my point with the Chargers. Broncos, which I will say I agree with you. It was like last week. They felt like a good defense, but they didn't feel, I don't know. There was a little venom missing last week. I like that's the only way I could put it. Dre Greenlaw was out. Maybe he's the venom. But they a lot more dime, which might be related to Greenlaw as well. This year, they're getting 6 DBs out there, almost double what they were doing a couple of years ago. It's 12% right now. And I think that's interesting because the Chargers are just chucking it to the receivers. They're getting the 3, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnson, like you mentioned, onto the field as much as possible. So I think in the weirdest way, a Broncos defense, Chargers offense is going to be almost finessey, in a way, as far as like, that's what I think the battle is going to be. It's going to be in the air. It's going to be the battle of the Pacific. So I looked this up and I just can't, I was like, this number seems really high. Justin Herbert has targeted his receivers 82% of the time so far this week, through 2 weeks this year. Like, that number just seems really high. I have no historical context. So I looked it up. True Media. I went back to 2002 when the NFL expanded to 32 teams. The record for receiver target rate is Derek Anderson in 2010 with the Cardinals. Do not remember that year, by the way. Do not remember Derek Anderson with the Cardinals. Derek Anderson was my counselor at the Manning Academy back in the day. Him and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I still think is so funny. But he had the record is 77%. So he's targeting receivers at a historical clip so far, which I justifiably so. Like, those are the 3 best pass catchers going against a team that plays a lot of dime. And they're also 6th best in success rate against receiver targets this year. So I think that's going to be a fun little battle, fun little matchup between these guys, even though there's some cool stuff happening up front as well. But big test for both sides and a wide open AFC West. It feels like, especially with the Chiefs reeling right now. Chiefs are in dead last in the AFC West right now. We got the Chargers are 2.5 point favorites at home. What's your final prediction for this game?
I think the Chargers should get it done because Herbert's just on another planet right now. And to the Chargers' credit, I will give them this. I think they kind of learned one thing they might learn from last year is just a little bit too run heavy on first downs, especially like earlier in the year. They were kind of forced to throw in more in the back half of the year once like the big boy offense showed up and started actually scoring points on them. But they're like 11th in first down pass rate this year, which is a big improvement from last year. So at least they're giving Herbert more chances to, get ahead of the rest of some of the stuff around him and not get stuck into so many third downs. But if he's going to keep playing like this, I mean, they can go pretty far during the regular season, I think. Yeah,
it's a good test for the Chargers O-line. It's like, all right, do you guys actually have the hosses to do this, to chuck it this left and right and to run the ball well enough? They weren't able to against the Chiefs. Chiefs have a good run defense. I mean, I think that's kind of proven. Chris Jones is still unblockable in the run game. I'm also going Chargers. The spread might move to -3. I'm not sure if they cover or not because I think this is going to be just such a close battle and everything. But I think that the Chargers defense, I trust a little bit more than the Broncos offense, a little bit, which is so weird to say about a Sean Payton coached offense. And I think the other thing could be at the very least a stalemate, and you got Justin Herbert. So I think it's going to come down to the trenches on the Chargers side, and on the other side, it's going to come down to the passing game, which is going to be very, very fun. I think on both sides, a lot of proving ground at AFC West in this battle.